Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune, and we are a matter of, you know what? By the time you guys are watching this, it's going to be game week.
It's game week, baby.
Going to be game week. We're going to talk about that, obviously. We're going to talk about what we witnessed today with some upsets. We're recording this right now, and SMU and Nevada are going down to the wire. This is just
SMU's kneeling it out right now. So that
are they okay? So when I walked in here, they were down one. So something must have happened in the midst of us doing our pre-production talk that I did not witness. Parker, you probably did. It was a good game, though. It was a great game. Obviously, the game earlier today with Georgia Tech and Florida State was chef's kiss on opening up college football season. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about who got the better end of the deal, Jonah Williams in Texas, Michael Fasusi in Oklahoma. Ooh. The roles were reversed 4 months ago. Which one got the better end of the deal? We're going to deliberate about that. We're going to talk about what to expect with Brent Venables in his first presser, who we think they're going to talk about injured, who maybe some starters that, surprise starters. I don't know. We're going to dive into a whole lot of stuff in this podcast for you guys. But first, we're going to pay some bills, Parker.
Yes, this episode of the Under the Visor podcast is brought to you by the good folks at Mando. As fall approaches, be prepared. Mando whole body deodorant will be your best friend this football season. Now, Mando is clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours. It's safe for the whole body, stops odor before it starts, and it's American made, folks, and available in 4 cologne quality scents: Bourbon Leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and Clover Woods. They make travel-sized body washes that are a favorite of Brandon and I's when we're on the road covering recruiting and covering OU football. Bourbon Leather is a fantastic scent. Mando can keep you smelling fresh no matter what you're doing this fall. Now, Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers because it comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash or the deodorant wipes, as well as free shipping. Now, we have a discount code to help get you hooked on our favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use code INSIDER at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. And that code again is simply INSIDER. Also, folks, download the Autograph app. Become a part of the community there. Tom Brady and the folks at Autograph are rewarding fans every day simply for being fans and interacting with content pertinent to their favorite team. Go to link.ag.fan/boomer and use promo code BOOMER. Again, link.ag.fan/boomer and use promo code BOOMER to get started for free and start earning rewards today.
All right. Parker, let's get into this. I think this is going to be quite controversial a little bit, I think, depending on what side you are. Texas fans, hello, if you're watching. 4 months ago, Michael Fasusi was all but, packaged and delivered to Texas.
The trend was Texas for him 4 months ago, and the trend, though it was fading at the time, was certainly Oklahoma for Jonah Williams about the same time. When spring ball started for everybody, you would have figured, okay, Fasusi winds up a Longhorn, Jonah Williams winds up in Oklahoma sooner. And through quite the plethora of circumstances ever since, most notably, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on Jonah Williams recruitment because that's not what Oklahoma fans are here for, but in no small part due to Jim Schlossnagel's transition from Texas A&M to Texas, of course, becoming the Longhorns head baseball coach in June. It's UT that makes a late charge. I say late. They've been in it for a couple months, but in the grand scheme of things, made a late run in Jonah Williams recruitment, and they're able to seal the deal this weekend. That comes just 3 days after Oklahoma wins a long, drawn out, contested battle for Michael Fasusi's services. So the 5-star that Oklahoma fans thought they were getting in spring winds up going to the 40 acres and becoming a Texas Longhorn. And the guy that Texas fans thought they were getting, the 5-star that
Yeah.
they thought they were going to lock up, is going to be headed to Norman to wear the crimson and cream and play for Bill Bedenbaugh.
Yeah. So I'll ask you. Who you asked me on the radio, is my turn to ask you.
Okay, fair enough.
And I'll talk about and expound on what I said on the radio on Friday on KREF with you. But ha, who got the better end of the deal, Parker? Like, seriously, 4 years from now, who got the better end of the deal?
Yeah. Well, I will say this. It's certainly a matter of perspective, because
Correct.
if we're talking who got the better deal in an overall sense, there's a very strong case it's Texas because of the baseball component with Jonah
Correct.
Williams. He's going to be a huge addition for their baseball program and is probably going to be a key.
We're not
Uh,
here to talk about baseball, Parker.
yeah, going to be a key piece in their lineup as an outfielder. Can bring the heat, crank it up to the mid 90s on the mound. So he's going to add a lot to that Longhorn baseball squad. If we're just looking at what these two guys bring to the field, the football field, that is, if we're just looking at the gridiron aspect of all of this, then I would say it's close. And obviously, there's no 5-star that is just another guy. You're going to be stoked no matter who you root for, no matter the 5-star in question. You land a 5-star, you're going to be stoked, and understandably so. Both Fasusi and Williams are outstanding players. My take, Brandon, is I think Oklahoma got the better end of the deal. And the reason being is that after Jonah Williams made his decision this evening, he said a great many things to several media members that were in attendance. One of them
Mm.
being,
Mm.
at Texas, the safety room is not that deep. So I'm going to be able to contend to get on the field early. And that kind of underscores the difference right now between Texas and Oklahoma, in that Oklahoma misses Jonah Williams less than Texas would because of the depth that Brandon Hall has accrued at that position. Now, would you rather have the guy? Certainly. But you land Omarion Robinson, you land Marcus Wimberly, you already have Peyton Bowen coming back next year, Michael Boganowski, Reggie Powers, Jaden Hardy, Michael Patterson McDonald, Eric McCarty, excuse me. You just go on down the list.
Spears
Oklahoma,
Jenkins.
Oklahoma is filled up to the brim with quality depth. And I neglected to mention Robert Spears Jennings, who does have another year. If he comes back in 2025, which I think it's a safe assumption that he will. But Oklahoma has an embarrassment of riches at the safety position. So, yes, Jonah Williams would be a valuable piece therein, but in his absence, you are by no means devoid of guys that are capable of and already are top flight football players. Moreover, when I look at Fasusi's developmental potential under Bill Bedenbaugh, we have seen time and again over the years what Bedenbaugh can do when he is given a 3-star canvas, as it were.
Mhm.
Now you give him a 5-star canvas. You give him almost inarguably the most college ready prospect that Oklahoma has ever landed out of the high school ranks. You give him a guy who's 6'6", a muscular toned 290, good footwork, strong work ethic, embraces the culture at Oklahoma. Michael Fasusi is as close to a can't miss prospect as you could imagine, given who he's going to be playing for and barring injury, obviously. But I would say that, I mean, maybe it's a different conversation at the time, but I think as we stand here on the precipice of the 2024 season beginning, and you look right now at what Michael Fasusi brings to Oklahoma in the next 3 to 4 years. You look at what Jonah Williams brings to Texas the next 3 to 4 years. Your expectation is and ought to be that both of those guys are going to make a tremendous impact. But again, if we're talking value over replacement, I would certainly say Oklahoma got the better end of the deal, scoring the 5-star that the Longhorns thought they were getting this spring, as opposed to the 5-star that Sooner Nation thought they were getting earlier this spring.
Okay, so I'm going to agree with you. But I'm going to throw this out there to you because I think you said something about the safety room that Jonah Williams really kind of magnified the part that Texas is going to be kind of like water. Everybody, the water goes the easiest route. That's the easiest route to be a starter, right? To go into Texas. Texas fans are going to say the same thing about Oklahoma in the tackle position. I'm going to tell you, Texas fans, that you don't know what you're talking about. And here's why. Now, granted, Fasusi, though he may be raw, athletic, still learning the position, still learning the game. He hasn't been playing it for all too long, right? I mean, he just came over, what, 5 years ago? Was that right? Somewhere around there, as far as his trek from Nigeria to America. So Fasusi's going to play as a freshman, most likely. I mean, he's healthy, develops the way he's supposed to develop, all that. Logan Hallen is supposed to be really, really good at some point. Like they love Logan Hallen. You talk to people behind the scenes, they love Logan Hallen. Obviously, guys like Eddie Pierre Louis could slide out to tackle if he needed to. Jake Sexton could return next year. Again, if he returns, he's most likely sliding back out when Michael Tarquin leaves to left tackle. And he's not playing left tackle because he can't beat out Michael Tarquin. I want that very clear to everybody. He's not playing left tackle because that offensive line is better when Tarquin and Sexton are out there together, and Sexton is a better guard than Tarquin is. So it makes sense to do that. And obviously, Tarquin, they've seen him at right tackle at USC. He wasn't that great at right tackle. He's a good left tackle at Florida. Very good left tackle at Florida. He's much more comfortable at left tackle. So that's where that goes. Oklahoma has recruited so well at offensive line over the last 3 cycles that just saying that it's an automatic that he goes in and just starts is naive. Not to mention, Beatenbow is notorious. If there is a top tier tackle in the portal, Oklahoma has landed that dude 9 times out of 10 in the last 5 cycles, right? Like how many tackles have they gotten out of the portal, Parker? Wanye Morris, Jackson, he slid into guard every now and then, but what was his name? Help me out here in 2019.
2019? Are you thinking
from
of
Virginia.
RJ Proctor?
Proctor. I said Jackson. Proctor. Yeah. Proctor. He played tackle and guard for Oklahoma. Who else is the Walter Rouse? There's been other tackles. Who am I missing here that they've gotten over the years that's played for them?
As far as tackles go, you might. I mean, obviously Tyler Guyton was a transfer.
Tyler Guyton. Oh, okay, 4.
Yeah.
There you go. There's the 4. Right. Those 4 out of the last 5 years. Really solid names. Right. So it's not a guarantee. I hate that, and I promise you, and Fasusi has said it, Parker. He said it over and over. Nothing was promised to him. He went there on the grounds of development.
Correct, because Bill Beatenbow, Brandon, yes, as you and I know as well as anybody, he is not the type to promise anything to anyone.
No, that is totally not how he works. So development, and then what Texas fans are going to say, Parker, you brought it up, 5-star, right? Ready, 5-star. Oh, well, the last 5-star Beatenbow got, he didn't develop him. He's had 1. And Bray Walker, 1. And Bray Walker actually played a significant amount up until probably year 3 of his career, where he just kind of fell out of the rotation due to the fact that Oklahoma's 2020 class was so elite.
And also, at the end of the day, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink.
Correct.
Right. And that's the difference between Michael Fasusi and Bray Walker. Michael Fasusi is going to drink.
Yeah. And okay. So there's that. There's also this guy named, Ryan Foje that's committed to Oklahoma that he's not awful. He's actually pretty freaking good. Obviously, rivals. Parker and I will sit here and tell you right now, he's not ranked the way he should be ranked on Rivals 250. He should be ranked in the top 100. I don't think that's. I do not think that that is outlandish to say. And if we disagree with the rankings, we're gonna tell you, yes, that's our company, but doesn't mean we have to agree with everything that they do as far as rankings go. And we're not real vocal about that hardly, but I'm going to be vocal about that because I've talked to so many people, Parker, that have talked about Foj, and they've said, look, this dude is he is so ready, it's not even funny.
And Gabe Eichert just tweeted out yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, Brandon, but I guess he was bored and watching tape of the OU commits, and he said, "Man," he tweeted something to the effect of, "Ryan Foje is going to be a first or second round draft pick if he develops the
Yeah.
way he should under Beatonbow because," and I quote him on this, "He's got one of the smoothest pass sets I've ever seen on a high school kid."
Well, that's high praise because that dude knows what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to wrap this up, just real quick, is to get to everything that I was just saying. I wanted to touch every base that I know Texas fans were going to throw out there, and they're going to try to throw all these little, holes in what you said, Parker. So I was coming in with everything that I thought they would think, and I thought they would say, and I'm giving you reasons why it doesn't make sense. Texas fans, just going to say, um, Fasusi went to a place where he knew he was going to have to compete, and we're not saying, and I'm not saying that Jonah Williams is going to come. That's stupid. That's stupid. That's naive. That's ridiculous. But he said it publicly that it was easier to get on the field at Texas than it was at Oklahoma. So um, there's a little bit of that where I think at the end of the day, fit. At the end of the day, Fasusi's going to fit Oklahoma better, which means he's going to take to the coaching better, which means he's going to take to the roster better, which means he's going to develop better, in my opinion, which means I think he's going to have a better career. Now, as Parker alluded to, I think that Jonah Williams is going to have a fantastic career on the football field and obviously the baseball diamond. He's probably going to get drafted in both. I mean, he's that talented. He's that athletic. He's obviously going to get drafted, probably baseball out of high school. Everybody's kind of knows that. So there's also no guarantee that he shows up, Parker. That's the other thing. So like if you're Oklahoma and you've got a guy that's guaranteed to show up as long as he stays committed to you, right? And a guy that could get drafted and it's a crapshoot whether he's going to show up or not. Be damned how good he is. He's fantastic. He's the best safety in the nation right now. I don't think that's arguable. But there's still that chance. You could be empty-handed.
And it's a very small chance.
It's a small chance, but there's a chance you could be empty-handed at the end of the day. As small as it is, you could. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with Fasusi. I just think that he's got a edge to him. And if all you have to do is listen to Michael Fasusi talk, Parker, like that dude wants it.
He's motivated.
He's motivated.
No doubt about
He's
that.
here for his family. First generation kid that's American now. That's what he's about. It's helping mom and dad out and that American dream. That's what they came here for. Why would you not root for that at the end of the day, right? Like that's amazing. That's what made America great anyways. So like that is I don't know. That's just a story that you're going to want to root for. And he's going to be motivated to make sure it happens. And you add the talent to all that. I just think as long as he's healthy, Parker, that dude, if he's not a day 1, day 2 pick, I think that will be a disappointment. Period.
Oh, yeah. I think it would be a major disappointment if he's not at least a day 2 pick by the end of his collegiate career. Again, barring injury, because injuries can wreak havoc. I mean, we saw that with Caleb Kelly, right? A guy can have all the potential in the world, and if he can't stay on the field, if it's just a case of bad luck, as with not only Kelly but Rodney Anderson as well, there's nothing you can do at that point. But as long as Fasusi stays on track, as long as he stays healthy, again, you look at what Bill Bedenbaugh is already going to have to work with Fasusi's raw ability, raw talent. There's absolutely no way he is not, assuming he stays healthy for 3 or 4 years, absolutely no way he's not at least a day two pick.
I think we both agree that they're both going to be really good. I just think one is going to be elite. I think I think that's the difference, right? Because one's going to be more like it's very difficult to focus on two things. Kyler Murray, there's not a lot of Kyler Murrays in this world that can do both at an elite level like he did.
Yeah.
And I think that is a big difference. Ryan Miner was a lot like that, right? In baseball and basketball. There's not a lot of those guys out there in this world. That's why there was almost 20 years between both of them because they're that rare, right? I mean, Deion Sanders, like they're just rare, very rare. So, um, that's the other thing. I mean, Sam Bradford was so good at golf, was so good at baseball, was so good at basketball, and he was just good at football. He cut all those out, and he won the damn Heisman. Was the number one pick in the draft when he really focused in on football, and that's all he did. Now he's what's he doing in golf? Like he's like
Yeah, he's
he's
still golfing pretty dang well these days.
yeah. Didn't he qualify for some absurd PGA thing like not too long ago? Is that not true?
I saw something. I couldn't tell you what it
I
was,
couldn't
but
tell
yeah,
you
I
what it
saw
was,
it.
but it was like some people are like talking about how crazy it was. But that's the type of athlete I think Jonah Williams is. But is he going to put 100% one over the other? I think that is going to be the biggest question. Because if he does, he's going to be elite at whichever one he does. He's so talented, so talented. College football started today too. I mean, what'd you think of the games, dude?
I did not get a chance to watch Florida
Oh
State and
no!
Georgia Tech.
Oh no!
I was in Arkansas hanging with Marcus Wimberly and his family. Awesome
Okay,
time.
fine.
Awesome people. It was worth it. But I did get
Tell
the
us about
chance.
that.
Well, I'll have a real fun story coming to ouinsider.com
Okay,
about my afternoon with the Wimberleys. In Bauxite, Arkansas. Well, I guess we were in Haskell. That's where
right next
uh,
to Bryant.
yes, yes,
Hmm?
exactly. Which I imagine you're quite familiar with that area.
Very
Um,
familiar.
uh-huh. So that was fun, but I did get the chance to watch a good deal of that SMU Nevada game. Man, that was fun. That was a
Mhm.
fun one. Went down to the wire. Nevada was a 4 touchdown underdog. Tip of the cap to Jeff Choate and his squad for giving SMU all they could handle.
Mhm.
Man, it is fun to have college football back, even if it is small time. And I guess SMU is P5 now, but P5 G5 action, I'll take that in week 0. And the games are good in week 0. That's the point in the season at which you'll take it in whatever form. You'll take football in whatever form. You're not watching SMU Nevada in week 9, but you're
Mhm.
absolutely watching it in week 0. And that game delivered.
Well, the reason I asked about that is I knew you watched the SMU game. The Florida State Georgia Tech game was awesome. Marvin Jones Jr. was obviously about to be an Oklahoma commit. He was almost basically silented before Riley decided to dip out the day before. I mean, he was coming in and all that, like not to rehash old wounds or anything like that. But he was almost non-existent today, which was weird, right? As talented as that Florida State defensive line is, and that was the difference. Is Georgia Tech's offensive line just dominated Florida State's defensive line, which defensive line for Florida State has been what has made them so good over the last few seasons under Mike Norvell. And then, which I would love for Oklahoma, by the way, to go play in Ireland for the opening. If who would you want them to play? Like just, I mean, for me, it's Notre Dame without question, right?
Because the Irish.
Yeah,
Um,
just easy, right?
yeah, I mean, I guess that's the easy answer. I would like them. I would like them to play a game that is unique and significant. I would like them to play an opponent that they have not at least frequently played in the
Like
past.
Clemson.
Clemson would be fun.
Hmm.
Maybe like an Oregon would be fun.
Oh yeah.
Um, Heck, if you could convince Lincoln Riley to schedule you, OU USC across the pond.
That
He
would be
might go
fun.
for that because that means he'll be able to escape the wrath of OU fans, or at least the
Yeah.
majority of them. Because
I don't know.
any
I think OU would buy it. I
any
think those
OU fans that
fans.
wanted to show up would have to fly all the way across the ocean to watch that game. But yeah, no, that is what would move the needle for me.
Well, yeah, I agree. think Clemson would be fun just to get a Brent Venables Dabo Sweeney head to head matchup, which would be really neat. But
We're gonna get OU Clemson head to head in
yeah,
like a decade. Brent may still be around. There's no chance Dabo is, unfortunately.
yeah, probably.
Um,
Well, he'll be around. He just won't be
oh,
coaching.
yeah, well, yes, but
Clarify that for everybody. He wasn't calling for him to be deceased. So,
yeah, kill Dabo.
so
I like Dabo. I
I do
have no
too. I think he's
problems with
funny.
Dabo.
Yeah,
Um, I
but
I was looking at the future non-con schedules today, and I remembered only 2 more years till Oklahoma goes up to the Big House. That's gonna be fun.
I know they get Michigan next year at home. That's gonna be freaking awesome. But you know what I noticed today? You brought it up during when we are doing the pre-production talk. There's a lot of OU connections on that SMU roster.
Hmm.
Obviously, Corey Roberson's Jr. still on there. Um, Nate Anderson was playing what you said, right tackle,
He was
right?
playing right tackle for SMU. Yeah,
Odd. He just played
played
guard and
guard at
center the
OU
whole
or
guard and
center.
center
Yeah,
the whole time at Oklahoma. But who wasn't? Who was the big deal that they
no,
lost him?
no sign of Savion Bird.
Yeah. Wild. Wild. It's almost like OU was like, yeah, the hell we're gonna pay you that much money, bro. Go on. Like, no, no. And that's not to say he's not a good player. There were reasons why Oklahoma did not fight that.
Hmm.
And it had nothing to do with talent. We can say it now. He's got maturity was always his big detractor, right? Like that was
Sure.
his biggest issue was maturity. So I hope he gets his feet on the ground at SMU because if that dude ever does, he will be a day two guy. Like he's that talented, like just so talented. But it's just gonna be how much does he really want it? Um, the other thing is does some of the things that my brother texted me and asked me this question, and I thought it was really interesting. You see what's happening with Nevada and SMU. SMU is a Power Four program now, and they've got Power Four talent across the board almost, right? Like they are very talented. They have a great their transfer. They bring in really good players. Georgia Tech beat a program that is notorious for having top 10 classes in recruiting. Georgia Tech does not. Are we starting to see the turn of complete and utter balance throughout the college football world?
Mm. I would caution against. First off, I think it's a valid question. I would
Very valid.
caution
Yeah.
against drawing any hasty conclusions based on the results of week 0 games.
No
What
doubt.
happened? Yeah, what happened in Georgia Tech, Florida State doesn't really change my opinion. I'll tell you my opinion. It didn't really change today, even with the outcome of those 2 games that you cited. Yes, parity in college football is I guess my perspective on it is it's simultaneously expanding and
Mm.
shrinking because there is very clearly so much more of a competitive chasm between, say, Alabama and New Mexico State than there ever has been before. I mean, P5 schools and G5 schools, especially the lower end G5 schools, there's not a low end G5 school. Well, I say that New Mexico State did go to Jordan Hare and beat Auburn last year. So
Yeah.
we're not quite there yet, but we're definitely headed in that direction where there's just so much of a gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
The schools with resources, the schools without elite level resources, that it's going to be very, very hard for schools like that, schools across the G5, to be able to regularly hold their ground on the gridiron against P4 programs. But if you just want to look at the P4, yes, I think there is more parity right now across the P4 than there was 3 years ago. And 3 years from now, I think there will be even more parity across the P4
Totally agree.
than there is today, because the schools that are in the P4, with very few exceptions, very few, the vast majority of the schools that are in the P4 have a great deal of resources,
Mhm.
a great deal of wealthy alumni that can sink money into NIL efforts and facility upgrades. And that's why you see a program, and here I'll go back to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech got a 5-star committed last week in offensive lineman Josh Petty. That can happen
Very
these
true.
days for a program like Georgia Tech. Heck, a year ago at this time, before they won, could have said the same thing about Missouri and Williams Winery. So, sorry, you look like you're going to jump in here.
Well, I was just going to say Georgia Tech is one program that will have a bunch of NIL money, like just because they have such a notorious academic structure at their
Mm-hmm.
university. And historically, Georgia Tech was very good up until what, the mid 90s, mid late 90s, and they were even decent then. I I think something I want your opinion on. I think the disparity between P4 and G5, I think where you start to see that gap that you're talking about, where it's just so bad that it's not noticeable, is when the collectives go completely under the umbrella of the universities.
Exactly. Exactly. NIL is simultaneously the great equalizer and the great hatchet, if you will,
The divider, yeah.
because it splits college football into two castes between the P4 and the G5, and it equalizes things for the P4s. The G5s kind of get left behind.
Which I think you're going to have, and call me crazy, I think the ACC at some point is going to get swallowed up. I just do. I cannot see it lasting, particularly if Florida State and Clemson leave like we've been hearing for a long time, right? If that truly happens, I don't even care if they go to the Big 12. That's fine. I think they fit the Big 12 to an extent. I think they more so fit the SEC, but the SEC saying they don't want them because it's already such a talent rich, just power conference that has way too many traditional powers in it already, that or some are going to not be traditional powers over the next few years because one is going to go, somebody's going to get knocked down. And if you're believe Colin Cowherd, that's going to be Oklahoma because they're the next Nebraska. But that's also another conversation we can dive into because we really haven't much. But um, I yeah, I just think that it's going to turn, and I could see like Florida State getting invited to the SEC, whereas maybe a Clemson goes to the Big Ten because they already were doing games with, right, like the Notre Dames of the world. They've been playing them quite a bit as of late. And then because Notre Dame's been in the ACC, it rolls over into the Big Ten, and like the North Carolinas go there, and then maybe I don't know, maybe to get into the DC area more, you see Virginia Tech get into the SEC, something like that. Like to make, I think it all matters markets at the end of the day. Where are the television and where is the SEC not? And where is the Big Ten not? Big Ten isn't in Florida. Big Ten's not in the Atlanta area. Well, to get in the Atlanta area, you go and you grab up a Big Ten, you go up and grab Clemson, right? That's where I think things are going to really start to change and be completely different, particularly on the NIL scale, because once you go from 4 to 3, How long does the Big 12 last? Because at no point in time is the Big Ten and SEC going to go away. Are they going to have? Are we going to have a structure where the conference there's 60 Power Four teams instead of 120, 129, or whatever it is? When does that happen, Parker?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like not Power Four, but
I
FBS.
Well, yeah,
FBS.
no, I know what you're saying. I know
Yeah.
what you're saying, and I think that does feel kind of inevitable at a certain point where you have one. Uh, where what I mean, you do basically have two casts, but not only do you have two casts, you have two
Yeah.
championship levels, if you will. 60 Power Four teams competing for a championship, and however many 80 something uh, group of five teams competing for a separate championship.
I
I
think
do
that
feel like
yes.
that's coming, and I don't love that, but I think that's the direction
You
it's
can still
headed.
play. You can still play them. It's just they would be ranked separately. I think. I don't know how you would do
Yeah.
it, but
Can
I
I
go for it.
can
Yeah.
can I push us in the direction of closing up shop on this podcast with an OU related question as we get ready for week one?
Yes, I was about to go that direction too. So you go ahead and take us there.
This is a question I am very curious to hear your insight on because I've had a few conversations recently uh, with sources close to the team. I know you're constantly in conversation with many separate team sources as well. So we kind of get information via different avenues, but much of it
Mhm.
aligns for the most part. And so my question to you is, as the Sooners prepare for battle in week one against Temple, how long do you think it takes? How deep into the 2024 season you think Oklahoma gets before we see Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, and Robert Spears Jennings on the field at the same time?
Oh my God. Um, it's gonna happen. Oh, man, we're going down a rabbit hole here, Parker. It's a rabbit hole that I don't want to get in trouble for. Um, I'll okay, so let me word it to you like this. The defense that Oklahoma has been running over the last few years, it was Venable's defense. But it wasn't completely how he did things at Clemson. Never really got completely deep into the woods because mainly because talent, right? And the defensive line really wasn't built to be able to play a three-man front. And I'll throw that out there. I think you'll see more of that, which will allow more DBs onto the field. Um, I think there's a world, Parker, where you see six DBs quite a bit. And that is because they love, God, they love Eli Bowen. Um, and they love Kendall Dolby. And they both play so good versus slot that when you play teams like Tennessee, who's going to throw out 4 or 5 wide quite a
Yeah.
bit, when you play teams like Houston, I think it'll probably be Houston that you see that because I don't. Do you want to do that, Tulane? Like, do you really want to show your cards, Tulane? I think that's too early. Houston's before Tulane, so I totally screwed myself there when I said that. I always forget. I keep thinking Tulane is before Houston for some odd reason, but I think you see it a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 plays against Houston, to where it makes teams prepare, but they not to the extent where you feel like you have to really dive into that. And I think once they play Tennessee, it's gangbusters. I think you're going to see Oklahoma throw everything out there. I know for a fact that they're going to be quite different in how they attack personnel wise and schematically. And as Kel said, during our podcast the other day, there's only so much you can do, right? Only so much you can do schematically and personnel wise. But when teams haven't seen it and they're not expecting it, and maybe they haven't seen it in 4 years because he hasn't done it since Venables was at Clemson, right? Well, you may not be as prepared for what you're about to see. And then Oklahoma starts throwing all that because Venables and Alley, they're savants. And so they're going to throw crazy stuff at you. If you can do that, you can really mess with people because you've got guys. I think tackle in space wise, Spears Jennings, Bowen, Bowman, the other Bowen, and Dolby. God, do you feel good about that, don't you? Like you
Yeah,
just do.
because yeah, those guys are going to be able to come down and help and run support and not get completely taken out of the play
Yeah.
because they're all very aggressive, not to a fault, but they pursue aggressively. They all take good angles. They're all sure tacklers
Mm-hmm.
and they're all fearless. And I think that's the quality that plays the best in Venables defense. You got to be fearless. And you can't take it to an extreme and get out of control, which I don't think any of those guys will. But that is the one word that I think best describes those Bowen bros, the way that they play ball, the way that Kendall Dolby plays ball, man. Those guys are fearless.
Yeah.
And the more action you can give them, the more opportunities that you can give them, especially in conjunction with one another, to be able to flash that and take advantage of their God-given abilities and God-given tendencies on the
Mm-hmm.
football field, the better off you're going to be as a defense.
Yeah. I look, I think with Gentry's shoulder, as physical as Gentry is, he's still, I think human nature is you're going to try to protect your shoulder. So you need extra sure tacklers out in space, particularly in the secondary, to maybe help with that because Gentry is going to be able to cover. Like that dude, he might be your best cover guy on the team, to be honest. Like, I don't think that is that a stretch to say? That's probably
It's
the
not a
truth.
stretch to say, but I think it's kind of refreshing that there's a debate to be had there.
Yeah.
When was the last time there was a debate as to who was the best cornerback on OU's roster heading into a given season? Because it's been Woody Washington for like
Yeah,
4 years
that's what
in
I
a
was about
row.
to say. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like unquestionably been Woody Washington forever. Now it's like, is it Woody? Is it Gentry? Could Jacoby Johnson be that by the end of the year? Could, I don't know, Des Malone take that reign at some point? What about Eli Bowen? Like there's debate to be had over who's what. And we haven't talked a lot about Makari Vick. People ask all the time about Makari Vickers, and I guarantee you somebody in the comments, if I didn't bring that name up, I'm like, why are you not talking about Makari Vickers? I He's been banged up
Yeah.
is the best way to put it. And he's been banged up in a way that we just aren't going to talk about it. And we've been asked enough that I'm bringing it up to you because I want to address it. And the only way we can address it is just saying we hope that he comes back. It's not like a knee injury or nothing like that. It's just something that it takes time to be cleared for. And that's the best way we can say it. So um he I think by the end of the year, the hope is that you get old school Makari Vickers back. And if that's the case, then dadgum. now
Yeah.
you now you really got a problem because Devon Jordan's been really good and shoot, so has Jeremiah Newcomb. I mean,
I mean, can we state the obvious? They're going to be too deep at defensive back to be able to keep everybody this coming off season. That is the harsh reality. And that's fine.
yeah,
Like, again, that's something that you come to expect these days in college football is that guys at pretty much every single position are going to hit the transfer portal. But the guys that'll be hitting the transfer portal, whether in the defensive background or several other position groups across this roster, Brandon, there are going to be a lot of guys that hit the transfer portal from Oklahoma this offseason, not because they're just not up to snuff and they're not good enough to crack it. And the coaching staff has to have that conversation with them of, hey, you're probably not going to see the field here. No,
yeah,
they're going to leave because there's not a viable path to playing time. And it's not because they're not good. It's just because there are so many dudes who are just a little bit better.
Yeah, no. So somebody the other day told me, source, when I was talking to him, he's like, look, man, like we're recruiting so good, but at the same time, it sucks when these kids leave. Like you're okay with them leaving to an extent, but they're like, you know what? It sucks because you're making somebody else better. Because the guys that now you've recruited so well over the last 3, 4 cycles, that the guys that are leaving, they're
Yep.
just good football players. They just are. And that's scary. That sucks. That in the old days they would have waited and maybe played their junior and senior year. Now they're like, dude, I'm too good to sit behind such and such. And they just brought in another 5 star. So why the heck am I going to sit around and wait and compete with that when I can go over there and start and probably make my way to the NFL in a few years?
I mean, the
I mean, it
example
makes
you brought up
sense.
earlier, like Oklahoma's third string center last year is SMU's starting right tackle, week 1 of the 2024 season.
There it is. I mean, prime example. Yeah. I can't wait, dude. It's game week. We're going to have a lot. We get to see Brent Venables on Monday. You guys are watching this on a Sunday.
Yeah,
Before.
listen, folks, here's what you need to be prepared for. It's going to be a content blast throughout the week. In order to maximize your intake, I would recommend you go get subscribed over at ouinsider.com. Just going to cost you a few bucks a month. It's well worth it. We make it worth your while. And look, I could wax poetic about how good the message board community is, or whatever. But at that point, I'm asking you to pay for an OU Facebook group. And that's not what we're about. No, what you pay for is intel. You're going to get intel, the best team in recruiting intel on the market. That's what'll make it worth your subscription over there. And the vibrant message board community, among other things,
Plus,
is a bonus that you get thrown in free of charge, if you will. But uh, you're going to get 2 Under the Visor podcasts prior to the game. You're going to get an Under the Visor podcast after the game. You're going to get the Oklahoma drill. You're going to get Barry and Mac, at least one episode, I would imagine 2 from them. We'll have coverage of Brent Venables' presser on Monday. We will have coverage after practice with player availability sessions on Monday. We're going to do OU Insider Live on Monday as well. There's a lot happening on Monday.
yeah.
We're going to have to reserve some time for ourselves to take a breath on Tuesday. But after that, we're going full speed ahead into the 2024 season, year 1 in the SEC, and we hope you'll come along for the ride with us.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait. If you're a college student, that promo is ongoing and it's always ongoing. All you have to do is email us, ouinsider@rivals.com. From your .edu, $11.95 is what we're offering for a whole year. You give us $11.95, less than $1 a month, and it's a one-time payment, and you can have OU Insider for a whole year. That's all you have to do. I'll give you a promo code. Just email us, ouinsider@rivals.com from your .edu. If you're a student, doesn't matter the university you go to, we'll help you. I'll even throw it out there. If you're a teacher and you have a .edu, I've had some of those people reach out like, we'll help. We don't mind helping. We're here. We want you a part of our community. We love it. The other fans love it when you come over there. So come on, email us, ouinsider@rivals.com. You must be a student from a .edu, but hope to see you guys there. Email us. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Streamers podcast. We will see you after Brent Venables and after the first presser of the 2024 season as OU starts their run into the SEC. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day.